Welcome to the Tea with Tamara Podcast. I'm Tamara Arnold, and it wasn't that long ago that I was a broke single mom drinking way too much, completely detached from everything. Now I've written multiple books, downloaded I Could Read Chakras, and I'm a channel for the universe. I'm a real person with real stories, and I can't wait to share them with you. So grab a warm bevy and let's have some enlightened conversation to live our best life. Hi, and welcome to episode 2 of Tea with Tamara. I am so excited that you guys are here. This is a really special episode for me because I get to talk about something that is really an integral part of the work that I do on this earth, in my business, with my clients. And the word is Stardust. And so my belief and what I have downloaded from Source is that when we come from the stars and we are born into our human bodies, we are gifted a piece of stardust that is our light, our soul's mission. The very reason why we have chosen to come down to this earth at all is based on the stardust that we carry in our hearts. Now, if you look at a baby, they are just full of excitement and interest and ideas and creativity and inspiration. As they're beginning their life process, everything is so new and exciting. You just watch them and how much they laugh and how much they smile. I saw a post the other day and it kind of made me go like, whoa, that said, a child laughs up to 300 times in a day, and the average adult laughs like 5. And I was like, wow, that's a big statistic. But that's because when we are just first born with this light in our hearts and we're just in the expression of being curious about it, there's so much joy in that. And so throughout our early adolescence, one of two things begins to happen. We foster that light if it is in an activity-based stardust finding way. So like if you are a musician or you're an artist or you're an athlete, chances are during your early childhood, you've had a chance to figure out what it is that lights you up. And you do this by your parents and you putting you into whatever it is that comes to mind, right? So almost every child goes into soccer and t-ball, and maybe you had musician parents, and so they placed you in piano. Whatever it is that their guesstimation of what it is that you're going to enjoy doing, they place the opportunity for you to find that spark or that joy in whether it's the arts or sports or any form of creativity as a child with any of the things that we can sign our kids up to. And by this point in age, it is really a plethora of things that we can allow our children to actively participate in. It overwhelms me sometimes. I have 4 kids, what they could be participating in. But the neat thing is that as kids, we have the opportunity, we have the capacity to foster our stardust if we are allowed to find a way in which we can vibrate at that level. So, and I'm going to give you 2 examples of how, when we're in our adolescence, that we might have found our stardust and then it didn't manifest or we weren't allowed to stay in it for any great length of time. So we have the opportunity where parents are connected enough. And it's difficult. I'm not saying that this is a good or a bad thing, but we tend as adults in our own human experience to base our parenting on what it is that we learned and the beliefs that we were brought up into. And so one of 2 things will happen as our kids are expressing themselves or as we were expressing ourselves when we were kids. And that's like, we'll put our kids in something and they'll be like, oh my God, this is not for me, Mom. I hate it. Or they'll cry if they're too little to use their voice and they just don't want to go and they'll do everything in their power. They'll be like the night before they'll feel sick because they don't want to go, right? But we have been instilled within us from our parents, or parents taught it to us. So you can think back right now to when you were a kid and your parents saying, if you start something, you've got to finish it, right? Like if we signed you up and we paid money for this, then you are going to drag your ass to this whatever activity it is, because we paid money for that. And we don't want a child who just signs up for things and cancels out, or doesn't follow through with what it is that they say that they want to be doing. So in that moment, when clearly they are sharing that they don't enjoy what it is that they're doing, or it was something that we did not enjoy as our little selves, and yet we're being forced to do something outside of what brings us joy. And being told it doesn't matter that it doesn't bring you joy. What matters is that you said you were going to do it, so now you're going to do it because that's what you said you were going to do. And I'm not saying that that is a bad lesson by any means. When, we get to a place where doing what we say we're going to do is a really important, valuable life lesson, and lesson in business and in relationships as well. But when you're like 7, right? And you're like, every single week you're saying, please, this is not my joy. Please, this does not fire me up. And nobody is paying attention or listening or even caring. We tend to begin to shut down our stardust, our light, and become what we think will make our parents happy, what we think will make a teacher happy, what we will make our grandparents happy, right? So we begin to start to dim our light in this moment. Now, if we are allowed to go into a sport or an activity or the arts or music and we love it, like, oh my goodness, it's all we can think about, and we just want to do it 24 hours a day. So we come home from school and we want to go right directly into doing it. And these kids, you've seen them. I was not one of these kids, by the way. That was never me during any of these things. And I'm going to talk to you in a second about the secondary way that your stardust fires up. So like, if you're like, great, I don't have stardust. I never participated in any activity as a kid that lit me up, so I'm doomed. You're not doomed. I promise you there is stardust within all of us. And so, if you remember, like you think of like a Sidney Crosby, and that's just what's coming up in my head. And yes, I'm Canadian, so it makes sense. I'm talking about a Canadian hockey player. But he would say to you, in the basement, always shooting pucks. You see the musician who all they do is, since they were little, has had a microphone in their hand and they just wanted to sing, sing, sing. And, my stepdaughter is continuously, every single moment of every single day, either reading anime or drawing anime. Like, I can tell you her stardust has a lot to do with the creative act of anime right now. And I want to foster that as much as I possibly can. And so whatever it is that she wants to do, whether it's reading it or coloring it or actively participating in fan groups where she can submit art, that's the beautiful thing, right? And so we allow them to find that spark, and then to be able to shift that spark into all areas of their life. And there comes a point where, in teenage years, if our stardust is in an action-based stardust, where we're faced with people who will say to us, but you're not going to make money out of that. You're choosing a really hard life if you make this your decision, or if you go after that. Do you know how many people actually make it in that industry, and so on and so forth, right? And so that person, whether it's you or your child or whomever you're thinking about right now, then has that thought process again of like, I don't really care. It's what I want to do. It's what lights me up, what fires me up. So I'm going to follow it. I'm going to do it anyway. Or the stardust starts to dim again, right? And they think, oh, you're right. I should probably not do this because it's a far-fetched opportunity and I'm not going to make any money. And maybe I'm choosing a hard life. I'll follow an alternate path. And their stardust dims and the light gets turned down. Right? And they could get through, university, and they're going to go through, starting work at another job and having a family. But eventually what happens is our stardust will want to be activated in one of two ways. And for me, personally on my stardust, to not listen to my own personal stardust, I had to numb myself physically. So I chose drinking, and when I was younger doing drugs and all of those kinds of things to not have to feel the discomfort of not doing what it was that I was placed on this earth to do. And so generally speaking, as we go through life and we get to that place where we don't feel like we're fulfilled, if we had an action-based Stardust or any Stardust, we will self-medicate into eating, drinking was mine, any sort of obsessive behavior in any way, shape, or form, because we are not feeling that full vibration of love light flowing through us, which was placed in our tiny little newborn hearts when we came down to this earth. Right? And so eventually we get to this place of discomfort, and I'm going to talk about the other Stardust here. So if you had had an action-based Stardust where you were doing an activity that you loved, you can have that moment of realization and saying like, why am I not doing art anymore? Why am I not playing that sport anymore? Why am I not, playing that instrument anymore? And you can start to bring it into your life and bring it into your awareness again, to bring that joy or to activate your light back into your everyday. Now, what if you are listening in like, I didn't like any of those things, Tamara. I am now screwed because I don't have Stardust. You do have Stardust. Because sometimes our Stardust is actually based on us needing to go through a certain life experience so that we could turn around and say to the person standing next to us or behind us or a few steps behind, oh my goodness, I have been where you are. And now I know that I'm meant to serve you. I'm meant to coach you. This is where a lot of coaches come into play and, entrepreneurs come into play, is because they needed to experience in order to find their vibration or what it is that they were meant to do on this earth and serve with it. And so I give the example of like, I grew up with a mother who had mental illness, and then I had my son, and he showed severe mental illness at the age of 8 when he threatened to kill himself. And then for the next many, many years, it was a really tumultuous time of consistently, I've had mental illness as being the forefront of the relationships that I find, the most important in my life. And I mean, Ethan was my firstborn. So at some point, and that was only really at the beginning of last year, I kind of had that awakening to the knowing that why would someone such as myself have experienced that much mental illness if I wasn't meant to serve, or I wasn't meant to reach back and help the next mom or the next daughter who is going through something like this and make her experience easier. Right? And so I wrote my first book, My Kid is Driving Me Crazy, a Mom's Survival Guide for Living with a Child with Mental Illness, in the essence of this is what I did in order to get myself to the position where I was writing a book, that I'd healed myself internally enough that I could actually, show up and be present and do the life that I was meant to do. And so, that form of Stardust is if you can look back and say, oh, and I'm thinking about a current client that I have, like, who has experienced death unlike anyone else I've ever known in my life. And you have to look at that experience at some point and say, like, why have I, has the universe brought me all of these things? And maybe it was a divorce, and, you can look back and say, wow, I've had like multiple divorces, or even one, and say, I can serve the next woman that's going through a divorce and help her come back into this. So your Stardust can be based on life experience where you're turning around, but really you'll know someone who is in their Stardust, or you will know when you are in your Stardust, when you just feel so happy and excited and joyful for what it is that you're doing. Right? So I kind of want to slow down here and have you place your hand on your heart for a second and just close your eyes. And I want you to ask yourself, what is it that brings me the most light and joy in my life? And you might get a vision of being a kid and doing something, for me, it was, I went back to being a kid and having journals and books beside me because I was always writing poems or short stories or coloring, right? And now I'm 41 and I'm in the process of writing my third book. I've put out a Color to Create Your Most Amazing Year coloring agenda. And, I'm living the same expression of joy that I did when I was 10, and I'm doing it through my life experience and coaching people to find their stardust, their light, their magic, so that they can shine their biggest dreams out into the world. So it's in these moments that you're going to hear me talking about Stardust in probably lots of podcasts and lots of interviews that will be coming up next week with incredible souls, because I want to share the experiences of what our life was like and why we had so much difficulty, or why we went through what we did, and then the activation or the realization of what our stardust is, and what feeling you have when you can wake up every day through the good times, through the bad times, through any times, and just know it doesn't matter what's happening around you, because what's happening within you is so aligned with why you were placed on this earth, that you will show up every day no matter what, because it's worth being in this vibration. And it doesn't matter what anybody says. It doesn't matter what the naysayers or the haters or whatever, because your light is the most important thing. Why you were placed on the earth is the most important thing. And how that light is experienced by others is the very essence of why we're here. So yes, I am so excited that you guys are here for the second Tea with Tamara podcast. And I'm going to share a little bit of my backstory in the next podcast so that you can see how I went through what I went through and then activated my stardust and am living the highest vibration that I possibly can every single day, good, bad, ugly, all the rest of it. And I look forward to that. So I will talk to you soon.